So first and foremost, thank you very much for doing this, Vatsal. We've all heard a lot about, Nageen Publishers is the longest tradition. If I'm not mistaken, they're as old as me. You are as old as me. I mean, Nageen, that is. Yeah, yeah. So if you can share for the sake of our audience, I mean, who Nageen is, what the legacy is, because it's about 50 odd years and very solid work, both in Hindi titles as well as English titles. So if you can share a little bit about that legacy and how you arrived till.
Sure. So Nageen was started with a publishing company by my granddad in 1966, and it was under the name of Nageen Prakashan. And one of our first titles and one of our most famous books was and is Kumar Mittal Physics.
Of course.
It was the first books that my grandfather had published by getting two really great authors together and building a book that was very simple for the students to understand and also for the teachers to explain. So that book has been our hero product since the Prakashan has started, which I would say more than 5 decades now.
Yep.
And then over the years, we have expanded to various other subject titles.
Yep.
We have.
But today, how many titles would you be having, and what is the gamut that you offer?
So we majorly cater. So Nageen Prakashan is a publishing house where we only cater to academic books mainly, and then also children books.
Right.
So we cater to the northern and southern, like pan India, obviously.
Right.
But then we cater to 3 boards mainly. It is the UP State Board.
Okay.
ICSC board, ISC board.
Right.
And then there's CBSE board.
Of course. Sure.
Right. So we cater to these 3 boards majorly. And we cater academic books from classes 1 to 12th.
Nice.
And then our children books, they start from pre-nursery. They are those kindergarten books.
Right.
They start from pre-nursery to UKG. That's that's primo.
Right.
Then we have also these various kinds of activity story books for children.
Right.
So
those I think I've seen at one of the trade shows where it's sort of more color, more of interfacing.
Those are children books.
Right.
Right. So over the years, I guess we have expanded to more than 250-300 titles.
Nice.
Including all the categories.
Sure. So I know that you started off with, you mentioned your grandfather, and then of course the second generation, your father, and
yes.
The shift, one of the big shifts in addition to of course growing the market and adding more titles and increasing the sort of, readership bandwidth, was also sort of opting for print in-house, which was I think approximately 2000, 2010 thereabouts. Right. So again, if that you can touch upon briefly.
Right. So until 2010, we were majorly outsourcing printing for our books.
Right.
So one random night, my dad was discussing of setting a printing press with someone.
Right.
And then he took an instant decision where he just felt that it was the right thing to do, to go in-house. And then since 2010 until now, we have printed not just our books, but books for various publishers as well in-house.
Okay.
And we work with a lot of publishers who get their books printed from us. And the staple for our company, which has been the goal, my dad's personal goal has been, never compromising on the quality.
Sure.
Because as a publishing house, we publish our books and we also publish others' books, right? So if we compromise with quality for any one of the publishers, we always think that it can also it can by mistakenly go to our books as well.
Got it.
Our one of the major things has always been to never compromise on the quality.
Sure.
And always delivering books that are simple and easy to understand.
Sure. I know that you yourself have sort of a responsibility of mapping 2 things. One is, I think, online sales and your online development. So again, if you can touch upon that and also give us a sense of what the numbers are looking at, in the sense, are we seeing sort of more, books getting pushed in the market in terms of, the demographics of children, students, etc.
Right. Yeah. I think so. Books being pushed into the market, there are various categories. It depends upon various parameters. But at least in online, like we have from whenever we have started focusing on online, we have got a good year-on-year growth.
Okay.
A month-to-month growth as well.
Sure.
Since it is a seasonal business structure.
Of course, yeah,
We have seasonal sales. So again, during the off season, it dips a little bit.
of course,
But then again, there are other books, side books to focus on.
right,
But then I've realized that during this time, pushing the books online has various parameters. So one of the major parameters was obviously during COVID, where we had to introduce ebooks. Every
Yeah.
publisher had
Yeah.
to introduce
Yeah.
ebooks because of the limited access to markets, as I
sure,
was mentioning.
sure,
And but I feel personally that books will stay for some more, like a good amount of time, because
yeah. When you say books, you mean printed books, traditional ink
yes,
on paper,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. And why so? What is the reason?
So this is what I've realized, and also I've read a lot
Yeah.
about the shortening attention spans that we were
Right,
discussing earlier,
right.
And I feel studying from a traditional book just gives a much more
Solid framework, yeah,
solid, not just solid framework, but a more focused
yeah,
time to whatever you're reading,
Sure,
be it
sure.
academics for students or be it novels.
yeah,
It gives a more focused and relaxing time, I guess, where
Yeah.
you really grasp or understand the concept, which is hard. I wouldn't say impossible.
Yeah.
It is hard to do on any gadget
yeah,
which has internet on it, especially
Sure,
because of
sure.
the numerous amount of distractions
Yeah.
that come in through notifications or
Sure.
your urge to go on any social
yeah,
media platform.
yeah, yeah,
So I feel traditional books are still very kind of relevant,
yeah,
but then it also depends on what a school or what an institution is trying to promote.
sure,
A good
sure.
synergy between both of them works really well,
Yeah,
but one or the other obviously cannot work
correct, correct.
together.
Absolutely. So also, if you can just give us a sense, there's one is, of course, the ecosystem you've created in terms of, the knowledge quotient, the I'm sure the think tank, in a sense, creating the content, curating the kind of titles you have, the type of authors you have. And secondly, of course, this technology, which is the machines and the factory, which is actually, in a way, making sure that this knowledge quotient is converted in the best possible form. So, as you mentioned a little earlier about quality, so how is the factory arsenal that you have at Nageen, and how does that work?
Right. So I mentioned that we went in-house in 2010.
Correct.
So until COVID hit, we were actually one company, which was Nageen Prakashan.
Right.
Then just right before COVID, during COVID, we split into two companies,
Okay.
which was Nageen Print Pack, where we wanted to focus on printing and packaging both,
Got it.
and Nageen Prakashan being a sole publishing company.
Right.
And so the arsenal, if you say, we have a good amount of machines, automated machines, printed machines for commercial printing, for
Right.
press,
Right.
press.
Right.
And then if I talk about packaging, we have automatic die cutting machines, automatic folder gluers, and
Right.
laminators, flute laminators that are
Oh, okay.
that cater to corporation.
Nice.
So we have all of that available, and they help us a lot with our major goal of providing quality.
Sure. Sure. And I mean, obviously, you've, as you were mentioning, you've come into the sort of business pretty recently. And if you and I were to meet, say, maybe 10 years down the line in 2030 or 2040, where do you see Nageen, and what are the sort of, milestones that you've set for yourself?
So again, if you're talking about Nageen Prakashan, I see it as a company which 10 years down the line is still delivering the simplicity and simplicity of concepts to students,
Yep.
but then at a much larger scale,
Yeah.
and building an ecosystem around the same structure, where we are providing not just traditional books, but also a good synergy of online content
Sure.
and resources to children that make their life easier,
Sure.
not just in terms of studying, but in terms of choosing, in terms of understanding the concepts, and in terms of I would say, so this is what we've also been trying to do, actually, to show students more options where they can earn while learning, or help them earn a little bit. So give them more resources, or at least make them more open to resources where they can read on how they can help themselves
Sure.
when they are just in 11th or 12th.
Got it. Just a sort of slightly mischievous question. Have you also studied from your own books, or you have?
No, I actually
Okay.
because I was in a CBSE school. And,
Okay.
CBSE schools have NCRT as
Right there.
compulsory.
Correct.
Those things.
Correct, yeah. And if I was to ask you, which would be, you mentioned your grandfather's favorite, and of course your front runner in terms of the physics title, but any 2 or 3 titles which are your favorite in the roster?
Right. So our books, our hero products. One of them is Kumar Mittal, which
Of
has
course.
been the hero
A
product
cult
since
book, yeah.
1960. I would say our chemistry, biology,
Right.
accounts, and many other books
Yep.
catering to 9th, 10th, and 11th, 12th.
Yep.
These are some of the books that are actually really good and
Yep.
in demand.
Yep. Sure. And one last question. I know you were in Mumbai a short while ago attending a toy fair, so a little bit about that, because I see, both being a part of each other, school education and toys.
Right.
Yeah. So what's happening in that space? Yeah.
I guess so. I was in a toy fair. We were actually exhibitors through our third company, Nageen Tech.
Okay.
It's a brand, Nageen Tech's brand Mitimate. We were participating there. So we personally build educational toys.
Oh, nice.
So we have different categories. But I feel with the new education policy also coming into play, toys will play a really major factor in how children at kindergarten level are taught the basics.
Okay.
Because toys, I feel, provide a very fun way of learning and something that a child learns subconsciously and not very consciously in a very fun way.
Yep.
So I feel it will give a more practical oriented approach. If I talk about my products at the kindergarten level, also we also toys that just focus on various skills among children like critical thinking, strategizing, pattern recognition, which are really essential nowadays.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you. I'm sure this is like just 1% of the total. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more, but this is good enough to start with. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.